Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, Internet's busiest music nerd, and it is time for a review of the new Imperial Triumphant record, Alphaville. This is the newest full-length LP from New York avant-garde metal outfit Imperial Triumphant. It has been a few years since their album Vile Luxury, which served as an amazing introduction to the band for me. A record that was extreme, technical, very versatile as well, and surprisingly not even bordering on gimmicky despite its mind-bending fusions of black metal, death metal, jazz, and Alphaville here essentially sounds like the band is upping the ante with a clearer recording, monstrous vocals, relentless riffs and rhythms, and more curious genre fusions too, like the sudden passage of tribal hand drums that pop into the middle of City Swine, or the barbershop quartet vocals that open up Atomic Age, which keeps with the band's love of retro futurism. There's also the forlorn jazzy intro to Transmission to Mercury. Then later in the track, an unlikely horn solo, alien choral harmonies that resolve pretty beautifully at a few points, and then some Yoko Ono-esque vocal freakouts. While Alphaville doesn't feature quite as many bold and straightforward extreme metal and jazz fusions as Vile Luxury did, the band is still taking a lot of risks on this one. And doing it without sounding like a zany metal novelty where everything the band does has to sound preposterous or silly. Ultimately, I think the key may lie in that no matter what Imperial Triumphant is attempting on a track, the final result is harrowing, abrasive, and surprising. Now, the 9 tracks on this record span an hour, and almost every moment on this LP is oppressive, winding, disorienting, very dense but simultaneously invigorating too, as the sound the band conjures on this record is so thrilling and so fiery, packed with maddening compositional ideas and transitions and builds, like the sliding and melting dissonant guitar lines on The Greater Good. Pretty sure the band has captured the soundtrack to going insane, and while the material here is obviously very flashy and requires a lot of technical ability to pull off, it's not cold, calculated wankery that's so robotic in execution it sounds like AI-generated noise. Alphaville is evocative, to say the least. With the start of the intro track, Rotted Futures, we have this tense, dissonant swell of instrumentation that leads to these fragmented and off-kilter, ringing, sour guitar leads and riffs. The track sounds like I'm just trapped in a spinning, wondrous labyrinth of horrors that gets more and more disorienting as the band goes harder and harder and harder, kind of reminding me of the band Portal in a way, but a lot more melodic ideas translating. Also, the "Behold the Future" choral vocals that are worked into this track are frightening as fuck. We have more explosive and aggressive guitars and drums on the track Excelsior, where we get these speedy jazz grind drum passages propelling some of the most hideous and just garish riffs and leads on the entire record. There's a lot of black metal influence coming out of the harmonies and guitar layering on this track too, but it's pushed to such an extreme it's almost unrecognizable. Plus, the detuned breakdown in the second half is incredible as well. Then the somewhat industrial outro is so massive and crushing. I mean, one of the most momentous moments on the record too. Frankly, I'm not as crazy about the track City Swine, the super sparse and just acidic and tangy guitar leads that kind of twang and just ring their way throughout the first leg of this song. They're a bit too stripped back and skeletal. Something seems missing from this portion of the track that is sort of here throughout the rest of the record, but the second portion is a lot more densely layered, gratifying, visceral. The following Atomic Age, though, is easily one of the most exciting tracks on the LP. There are portions of this song that actually remind me of Liturgy a little bit in how the band is able to so maximally pack so much sound and so much melody and so much noise into a single moment, but with all of it still translating pretty well. There is a very foreboding first leg with the synced up rhythms and staccato guitar riffs that follow the barbershop quartet portion that I mentioned earlier. Sorry if it's a little hard to keep track because there's so many transitions and changes and various sections to all of these songs. But this song mostly feels like an experiment in taking this very off-kilter groove and slowly filling in all of the gaps with more and more just hideous sounds. Then there is a very sparse vocal breakdown that sounds almost like a call to prayer. And then after this section, this track is just 5 straight minutes of the most hellish beauty I have heard in 2020. Transmission to Mercury provides a very much needed jazzy switch up in the track list. I think the vocal work on this song is really interesting and adds a lot of flavor, extreme, abrasive, and freaky flavor. The title track of the record mostly gets by with its very visceral grooves, head-banging riffs, and guitar chords that are just erratically vibrating in tone. It sounds like we have like a lot of whammy bar usage maybe on this song. The chords are just I can't quite describe them, but the guitar is like nuts. Then we have a second half to this track that to me is just indescribably strange. We have some sci-fi inspired synths, more mayhem driven guitars and drums, and these cultish choral sections that are so grand and theatrical they are awe-inspiring. There is a similar brand of chaos created on the greater good with more vocals, more guitars, more drums, but with a pretty interesting lyrical angle, a dystopian future where the false choices given to us under capitalism give way to some kind of feudalistic consumerist slave state where you buy, do, and believe what you're told. Which conceptually is nothing brand new for the band. If you take their older works into context, they're pretty comfortable with the idea of portraying a grim future. There is a very familiar instrumental build and aesthetic to this track, given how far we are into the record at this point, but still the climax is incredible. Plus, this song does feature some of the most entertaining and ambitious bass embellishments on the entire LP, moments that feel like free improv, moments that sound like a lot of tappings going on. Now, the 2 finishing tracks on this LP, while not bad, are not nearly as gratifying or robust as many other songs on the record. We have Experiment, which is some kind of short, standard, very grim tech death. There's not a lot special about this number outside of maybe how smothering and crushing the ending is. Then Happy Home, the closer of the record, I would say this is really the only song on the LP that feels it's just demented for being demented's sake, I suppose. It sounds like every weird and freaky idea the band maybe had in mind for a moment somewhere on this LP, all coming together into the ugliest extreme metal tossed salad ever. Now, granted, there are some coherent melodies that translate out of this one, and I suppose the somewhat kooky vibe of the song does fit with the mood of the rest of the record, and in a way it's more theatrical and sort of campy elements, I suppose. So I can't say it's a total waste, even if it doesn't make for the grandest ending. But that's maybe my biggest issue with the LP at the end of the day. There is a lull in the first leg, and then it really fails to stick the landing. But everything else about the record is stupendous. Excellent production, performances, writing, really inventive, super creative, and incredibly original in some respects. One of the most unique, powerful, and colorful listens I've had with a metal record this year. Feeling a decent to strong 8 on this one. Transition, have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And you know, video next to my head, check that out. All that stuff. There may be a tornado coming my way right now, so I gotta go get ready for that, okay? Love you. Bye.